Hi guys, Squirrel here. Welcome back to another episode of TMCN. This may contain nuts. We're in Gdansk. Just before we begin, let me just quickly tell you about the truck and stuff. This is a DAF XF. This is a mod I've been using. It's a very nice mod. Pay particular attention to the painted bull bars, which are very nice, and the painted tank down the back. There's also some other accessories you can put on around the back, although the camera won't let me show you. You can paint the chassis and all that kind of thing. Very nice truck, actually. Very nice. It's in my mod spreadsheet, mods.squirrel.tv. You'll find it in there. I can't remember the name of the guy. It's DAF XF by somebody or other. It shouldn't be too hard to find. Anyway, let me just first of all thank you for all the questions you submitted for the theme, which is today's video. The theme is transport. I asked you in the last one to submit your questions. We got loads of questions. It was great. I could just go through them all and pick out the ones that I really like and thought I'd like to answer. And also, at the end of your question, a lot of you put down a theme suggestion, so we've got quite a few theme suggestions going on now. So it's great that you're actually helping to make this work. The next theme will be was suggested by Gary Prendergast, and his theme suggestion was life lessons stroke life advice. Okay? I'm not sure what I can offer on this, but, you know, I thought I'll give it a go. Life lessons stroke life advice. If you want to ask a question of me on life lessons, life advice, then the link to the form is in the video description. So just put your question in there, and don't forget, if you have a theme suggestion, just tack it on the end of your question. So the link's in the video description if you want to ask a question for the next episode, which will be life lessons, life advice. Anyway, the theme for today is transport. Speaking of transport, let's get fired up and drive around to our pickup point. Just jump inside the cab. You can have a look at the cab here. Quite a nice little cab. I've kept it fairly minimal. I've got my little dog over there. I like to drive with the dog. This is a GPS mod that I've installed. It's a Garmin mod. It's also in the mod spreadsheet. It's very nice, actually. You can change the position of it, the angle. Like, you can have it facing forward, left, right. You can put it over there, kind of thing, if you want to. Quite a nice little mod. I quite like the Garmin look. Also, I've slapped a phone there and a compass pointlessly. This mod also allows you to disable the built-in sat-nav down there and just replace it with a couple of panels. And you can even choose from different radios. I've gone for a Kenwood, so that's quite nice. Speedo showing my cruise, which is exactly what I want. And yeah, squirrel mug. And yeah, we're good to go. Let's mosey on round the corner, shall we? Parking brake is on. I'm so efficient. This is a 13-speed DAF. I think I stuck a 400 brake engine in here. Nothing too fancy. Seems to be fairly clear. It's mid-afternoon. The journey's going to take us on a ferry. We're going to head up to Sweden, I think it is. Is what I went for in the end. Going to Sweden today. Linköping, I think, was the destination. Now the gates, you see the gates here. Again, this is another mod, which is in the mod spreadsheet. What you need to do with these gates is just kind of pull up like that. And it should, in theory, if you get close enough. There you go. But don't try and drive through until it's fully open, because it puts up an invisible wall. That should do it. Now, a trailer is down there on the left. I think it's a liquor, drinks, is what we're taking today. Let's have a look. Freight market, there it is. 23 tons of liquor from Gdansk to Linköping. So we're going to take the ferry over to Karlskrona and then drive up all up the east coast there and head up towards Linköping. It is a fragile standard delivery. So it's paying 20k, which is not bad for a land distance of 361 kilometers. It's always difficult when I look at how many questions I've got. It's always difficult to try and gauge how long a journey I need to pick. So, you know, I'm either going to run out of questions or I'll have too many. One of those things is going to happen. Very hard to judge how many questions and the distance to travel to answer those questions. I think I've got advanced coupling turned on, so I'm hoping this trailer will support advanced coupling. Hopefully it will. Little X on the floor, because I have the no trailer thingy mod on, so we don't get the flashing green thing. I do like it, actually. I've not turned it off in the few months I've had it. There it goes. Put the parking brake on. And let's have a look. What do you think? I think the green truck matches the trailer quite nicely, which is what I was going for. I thought it would look pretty good. And indeed it does. Alright, let's get on the road. Let's get some side lights on. Put that into high. So I think we'll pull out in second low. Yeah, that's more than enough. Alright, let's crack on with some questions, shall we? We need to cross over the road here. And head left by the look of it. Actually, let's quickly have a look at the route. I don't think there's anywhere en route that I want to go. But I just want to double check. Yeah, we could actually just turn right out of here, couldn't we? Just to make it slightly easier. So we're going to go to Gdynia. How do we even say that? Gdynia? Karlskrona. No, there's nothing particularly en route that I want to divert to. So yeah, let's just turn right out of here. Look at the dog nodding his head. Yes, I agree with you, Squirrel. We should definitely turn right out of here. Yes, yes, yes. So having said all of that, the road has immediately become clear, so why not take advantage of it? Right, let's crack on with some questions. First question came in from Zarak002. He says, what is your favourite mode of transport? It can be anything from the bicycle to the largest airline. Your favourite mode of transport? Well, let's see. What modes of transport have I actually been on? I've done the bicycle, obviously. Done the motorcycle. Done the car. Done the train. Done the truck. Done the plane. Not been in a helicopter, funnily enough. I'd like to do that. I love helicopters, but never actually been in one, so that's definitely on the bucket list to do. Been on the boat, been on the hovercraft. Been on the bus and the coach. Is that everything? That's most things, isn't it, in terms of transport? My favourite is by far flying. I love flying. I still sit, when I fly, I still sit by the window. I always get window seats. I just love it. I even try and pick seats that are going to be, you know, looking towards sunsets or sunrises. I guess it's a lifelong fascination. Not really going to change. So flying definitely is my favourite form of transport. It's still on my list to fly a 777. I've flown a 747. I really want to fly a 777. I just love the GE90 engines. The sound of them is just beautiful. Whoa, dude! Are you kidding me? That was close. I only just saw that. So yeah, that's what I'd go for, Zarek. Next question from Jonathan F. He says, hi Paul, hope you're doing well. My question is, out of all the transport simulators you play, if you had the choice, which one would you do as a real-life job? Well, isn't that an interesting question? I know a lot of viewers, particularly from the stream, because they tell me, have played this game and then gone on to become truck drivers. Which is amazing and wonderful at the same time. They got to experience what it might be like and then went out and did it for real life, which is exactly one of the points of a simulator, really, isn't it? To find out if you like something. I think I would, if it was me, I would go for pilot. And the reason I would go for pilot is because one of the reasons that I really got into simulators many years ago is when I was thinking about becoming a pilot, and I was trying flight sims, but we're talking like flight sims on the Atari ST, you know, back in the 80s, so simulators were a little bit different to how they are now, you know, just a little bit. But nevertheless, if I could do it, if I could pick a sim to do as a real life job, I think it would be a pilot. I just love it. I love flying. I love the fact that you can go around the world. But equally, like anything, there are many flying jobs that you can do that are just mundane, and many flying jobs that you could do that are just wonderful and fascinating. So it would definitely be commercial pilot, by the way. It wouldn't be like DCS, Combat Simulator. I wouldn't be doing a combat role. Just no way would I go for that. But I would definitely go for passengers and stuff like that. So that's what I would do if I had a choice. I would go for a flight sim role. I would take that into being a real life commercial pilot, I think. But equally, I'd kind of like to fly a helicopter. I've flown helicopters in Sims, and I'd like to do that in real life. Let me just get on this road. But I don't know if I'd want to do it for a living. I mean, I see these police helicopters hovering overhead of my house now and again. Not looking for me, I don't think. Looking for somebody else. And I think to myself, would I do that for a living? Would I sort of be that guy up in the sky there looking for the criminals? Or would I perhaps fly helicopters for the, you know, the sort of ambulance services, or the rescue services, mountain rescue? Very dangerous job to do in bad weather conditions. Would I go for that? And I think my answer would be, I just kind of like to travel the world and see the different countries, and I think commercial jet would be better. Maybe like long haul. Although I imagine, you know, long haul after a while, you just sat in the cockpit for like 10 hours. I don't know what those guys do, to be honest with you, those pilots. What do they do for 10 hours on a long haul? Would that get boring? Would it be better doing short haul? I'm not really sure. I'd kind of like to try it to find out, but yeah, that's what I would do, to answer your question. Mac Gaming Filmer, as the next question says, what is your favourite and least favourite form of transportation? Ooh. Oh, by the way, before I answer that question, I have a mod which changes the traffic. I suggest you give it a try. It's in my mod spreadsheet, and as you can see here, there's a lot of traffic. It simulates rush hour as well, so it can be being 4 o'clock. The traffic's getting heavier, and at night the roads are quite quiet, particularly on the motorways as well. It's kind of cool. It feels a little bit more real. Sometimes it can feel a bit like there's too much traffic, like perhaps now. But it's fun. It's definitely fun. So if you suddenly see a ton of traffic, that's why. It's because I've got that mod turned on. So anyway, to get back to the question, what is your favourite and least favourite form of transportation? Well, I've already listed the forms of transport that I've done. So what's my favourite and least favourite? Well, as I said, my favourite form of transportation, just leading on from the previous question, I guess, is flying. I love flying. It still makes me look out the window and I enjoy it. My least favourite form of transportation, and this may come as a surprise to some of you, would be buses. And you're thinking to yourself, well, hang on a minute, Squirrel. Why the heck do you play games like Omsi and Bus Sim if it's your least favourite form of transportation? Hang on a sec. Seems to be struggling to haul. I think maybe the DAF wants to rev quite a bit. Well, the reason is quite simply this. If you think about it, right, you've got... With planes, they're up in the sky, they've got nothing else to interfere with what they're doing apart from other planes. With a train's got dedicated tracks, so the only thing that's on the tracks are trains. With buses and coaches, they share the road with other road vehicles. You know, bicycles, motorbikes, cars. And for that reason, even though you've got bus lanes and stuff, for that reason they also suffer from traffic problems. Like, if you suddenly find there's an incident on a motorway, on the route that you're on, a bus can suddenly, or a coach can suddenly be very, very late. If there's a traffic jam in town, the bus can be very late. And like I say, they have got bus lanes going on. A lot of it comes down to the average speed of a bus, right? It's not that fast. It frequently stops. Okay, so apparently there's been a HTC Vive update, so it's just thrown me out of the game. That was cool. I literally just got thrown to my desktop with a HTC Vive update notification. Absolute genius. Thanks for that, HTC. Full screen app, and I'll just kick you out and show you this prompt. Way to go. Yeah, so I think what frustrates me about travelling on a bus, it's not that I don't like buses. I like buses as machines, I like buses, and I like to drive them in simulators. But what frustrates me as a passenger, which is basically what the question was, is the speed that they travel and the fact that they get held up so much, and the fact that they stop so frequently. Like trains and planes and stuff don't stop anywhere near as frequently. Buses are like, stop, go around the corner, stop again, go around the corner, stop again. And you just feel like you're going nowhere sometimes. And then you sit at a roundabout waiting to get out, and it's just horrible. So they're my least favourite. For that reason. So like I say, that probably came as a bit of a surprise to some people. But that's true. I think out of all of them, that would be my least. Flying is definitely one of my faves, and I still love motorbiking. I haven't got a motorbike now, but I still love motorbiking. It's definitely a great way just to get around. Zip in between. There's no such thing as a traffic jam when you're on a motorbike. It's just wonderful. It's freedom, is what it is. Right, next question. Just waiting for these lights to change. Seems to be taking a long time. Next question is from Roland. That's all it says, Roland. If money was not an issue, and you could purchase any vehicle in the world, wow, what would it be and why? Doesn't have to be a car. Well, he did say any vehicle, so I kind of got that bit. Roland, if I could purchase any vehicle in the world... Okay, this is getting weird. Let me show you a little tip. Turn off your indicator. Turn off your indicator and the traffic just stops being idiotic. What would I buy? If I had all any money in the world, I could use any vehicle. What would I buy? See, that's a tricky question. Thinking about all the different vehicles that I could potentially buy. I think... What would I go for? Wait a sec, let me just figure out where we're going here. This way, I assume. I assume it's a drive-on point. Yes, it is, I think. That's the mechanic. Quite handy having a mechanic there, actually. I think I'd go for an Apache gunship. And you're probably thinking, what? An Apache gunship? Well, it's a helicopter. It's a fast attack helicopter. It has ridiculous amounts of equipment on it. And, let's face it, with all those guns and missiles, I could have some real fun in that thing. So, if money was no object, I'd probably get an Apache gunship. Because imagine the kudos. Imagine the kudos of just turning up at events in a gunship. I mean, seriously, there's nowhere that you would land that wouldn't turn heads. People are like, you've got a gunship? What? Right, engine off. Parking brakes on. That's going to take 10.5 hours. It's probably going to leave us in the middle of the night, annoyingly. Come on. Boom, boom. This is your captain speaking. 3 AM. That's not so bad. That's actually not so bad. It means it's going to start to get light fairly soon. Okay. Let's figure out how we get out of here. Presume we turn right. That's what it seems to be. Oh, pressure warning. If I couldn't have a gunship, if that was... I know you said any vehicle, but if I couldn't have a gunship, I'd probably have a 777. Just for the lols. You know, just because... Just having a 777 would be amazing. I think, I know John Travolta flies a 747. I don't know if he owns a 747, but I know he flies one. And he flies it around the States, doesn't he, when he goes, you know, filming and stuff. But I don't know if he actually owns it. I think he does, but I can't remember. So yeah, I'd probably go for a 777. I don't know how I'd run it. I don't know how I could afford to run it, but I don't even know what I'd do with something like that. I mean, I haven't even got 200 friends to take with me, you know? But the idea of having a 777 kind of appeals to me. Anyway, hope that's answered your question. Next one is from Liam Lascelle. Liam Lascelle says, there seems to be a general dichotomy over whether London Tube is great or rubbish. What is your opinion on it? And what experiences have you had on it? Well, I've travelled on the London Underground for... Well, I've commuted on it every day for, blimey, almost 15 years. before I stopped working in London. And so I've had quite a lot of experience of it. I've experienced it in summer, I've experienced it in winter, spring, fall. You know, the whole shooting match. Rush hour, not rush hour, Christmas, you know, just everything. I've experienced it all in terms of London Underground. So I feel fairly qualified to sort of give some kind of an opinion on it. Bear in mind that the London Underground, I think, is like the first underground in the world. It's old, you know, it's very old. It dates back to, I think, the 19th century. And as a result, some of the tunnels are very narrow. Like, in fact, all the tunnels are very narrow because, you know, the wider the tunnel, the more expensive and time-consuming it was to build a tunnel. So back then, they built them all quite narrow. The later tunnels, which came, were a bit bigger. But things like the Central Line, it's fairly tight. I mean, literally the carriage is like inches away from the tube. So it kind of feels a little bit claustrophobic. If you compare that to some of, say, I don't know, the American undergrounds where the tubes are square and quite spacious around the cab. Like, you feel like if you got off the carriage, you could walk down the side of the train. There's quite a decent gap. Whoops! I nearly missed my turn. Blimey! Naughty squirrel. Look how quiet the traffic is now because of that mod. But in England, the tubes are very narrow and compact, and it can feel claustrophobic. So if you suffer from that, you're not going to like the London Underground. There's no aircon on the London Underground. Like, you know, modern transportation systems often have some kind of air conditioning. It's getting better. But years ago in the height of summer, I would stand on the platform and it would be 30 plus Celsius. You get on the carriage and it would be knocking on the door of 35, 36, going upwards in the height of summer. It was disgusting. And people are stood there, including yourself, in a suit. And the last thing you want to be doing is wearing a suit in that kind of weather. It was horrible. It's getting better, the ventilation is better. It's still not air conditioned, but it's better ventilated now. There's been a lot of investment on the underground in the last few years, so it's not as bad as it used to be, even in summer. But it can still be pretty warm. I think the London Underground moves something like 800,000 passengers a day in London. It's something like that. It's a lot of people. It's a huge amount of people. And there's no doubt about it, it's struggling. So you've got to bear all that in mind, in the context of sometimes how busy and broken it can be. We seemed to go for a phase years ago where the signalling would just break down constantly. That seems to be less frequent now. I think modern signalling systems have been introduced and it doesn't break down as much, but there was a time when it was just breaking down a lot, and it was horrid. I think over time it's getting better, but there is a limit to what they can do with it. They are making some new tube tunnels, but not many. What they tend to do is extend lines, extend the Jubilee line, extend it around Stratford Station. That's the way it tends to be now, but they don't tend to go back and, you know, bore out brand new tunnels and make things bigger and wider. That's just not on the plan. The stations vary quite a lot. Some stations are very modern, some stations are in dire need of, you know, upgrade. And it's not a 24-hour. It's kind of gone 24-hour recently, from what I understand, but when I was on it, it was never 24-hour. It would finish at about midnight, and that was it. It would kick off again at 5 o'clock. So, whether it's great or rubbish is definitely a matter of opinion. But it's very old. It does a vital job, because if those people were not able to get on the tube, well, they're going to be on the surface somewhere, and London's pretty busy. So it's pretty essential to London. And I would describe it as not great, and not rubbish, just very busy and very essential, is how I would describe it. There are better public transportation systems out there, definitely. But it's not rubbish, it's far from rubbish. But sometimes if you travel at the wrong time of day, it can be pretty nasty. Don't go, just stay away from it at rush hour. 8 o'clock in the morning, 7 till 9 in the morning, 5 till 7 at night, just don't go there. You just don't go there. Particularly in summer. You won't like it. Okay. Let's go in and get on with another question here. Let's get rid of that. Yeah, again, look how quiet the roads are. They're superb. It's really nice, because it is like early in the morning. Then suddenly rush hour will kick in. It's fun. Right, next question is Tech Curse. Hello, Paul. Just wanted to ask, what are your thoughts about the future of transport in general? Do you think that people 50 to 100 years from now will even recognize cars and trucks from today? Will they even understand what they were used for? Basic design? Well, let me put it this way. If you look back over 100 years, do you understand... When you look at a vehicle from 100 years, do you understand why it was designed that way? Can you look at it and see how it evolved into what we have now? Because I think you can. If you look back at, the original, like Stephenson's rocket, look at the basic principle of the steam engine, look at the steam train. Look at the horse-drawn carriage, look at buses, look at barges, even bicycles like the penny farthing and how they evolved. Just look at all of that, and you can totally see where it all came from. You can totally see how what we have now is born from what we had before. So it naturally lends me to believe that what we have now will lead on to future generations of transportation. I think you'll always be able to recognize it. I think, you're not going to change things like the basics, like the wheels. A vehicle with 4 wheels is pretty standard. Like, that's not really changed. You put more wheels and more axles on if you have more load, but those basics don't really change. As long as we have to combat gravity, we're going to need wheels to sort of move things around. The moment we discover or invent any kind of anti-gravity device, then we're not going to need wheels because we'll just float. Float or fly. So that's a different game, but let's assume that that doesn't happen. We're going to need wheels, so I think those will always be there. Now, the technology that's used in the rubber, in the metals, in the alloys, in the propulsion systems, in the power plant, all of that will absolutely change over time. It will get better. I can see it becoming more and more towards very quiet, very efficient power production plants, if not just straight up batteries. It's hard to say which way it will go. I don't know. It depends on how much battery technology changes, I guess. Or whether we just go for onboard production of energy, a very efficient form of combustion. I don't know what we're going to use. I doubt it'll be combustion. But then maybe we're just using hydrogen. Who knows? It's kind of hard to say. But I think, yes, we'll be able to recognise what is there and where it came from. I hope that answers your question. Thank you for that. But then, like I say, computerization's another thing. Is computerization will come in and change things quite a bit. In the same way that it's completely revolutionized the way pilots fly planes. Like, technology has changed things massively. So that will also have an effect. And if you just look at like a 787 and look at the screens they have on board now, and then compare that to, say, a 727, like, the difference in just a few decades is amazing. So that's going to continue, isn't it? Anyway, Loves Cake Mix is the next question. Says, having visited the States, how would you compare the transport infrastructure of the USA and England? Let's get through here. Anything that you want to see in your country that the USA has, or vice versa? Well, let me just caveat this by saying, I've been to the West Coast, I've been to San Francisco. That's the entire extent of my travels in America. Like, I can't say that I've seen America. I've not. I've seen what I've seen on TV, in the movies, and I've been to, like, San Francisco and drove around a bit for a few days. I don't think that qualifies me to comment, but I think from what I've seen, what I would like... I would like to bring over from America the concept of turning right on red, although in England that would be turning left on red, but it's the same thing. I like that concept. I like the fact that you don't need to sit at the lights when you can safely turn without crossing traffic. I think that makes a lot of sense, so I like that, and I think I would bring that over to the UK. I think what I would take from the UK to America, and I think they're doing this a bit more actually, is roundabouts. I know the Americans have a bit of a love-hate relationship, maybe even a fear of roundabouts, and some people will argue that they're not very efficient when, you know, studies show that they are pretty efficient. But they're not unlike anything. If you put too much traffic on them, they will of course start to break down, like any junction. I think America has too many crossroad junctions and not enough roundabouts. This is my opinion from an Englishman who has, you know, experienced a lot of roundabouts and a lot of junctions, so I'm kind of giving you my thoughts on it. There are times when a roundabout works best and times when a junction works best. But I think in the States, perhaps the balance is way too much towards junctions and not enough towards roundabouts. I think you could use more of them, and I think in the UK we could use turning right on red or turning left on red. So that's what I would personally swap around a bit. Next question from Jacob Stroke Raptor Rex, I think it is. Should I start with a bike as my first vehicle? The bike is cheaper but also more dangerous. Ooh, that's a good one, isn't it, eh? Blimey. Well, let me tell you what I did, apart from getting the wrong gear. I first got a car license. I got a car license when I was 17. When I turned 18, I went to university, and I couldn't afford a car. I couldn't afford to run a car. But equally, I lived in Sheffield, and it was a 2-mile walk down a hill and back up a hill every time I wanted to go to a lecture, which was very annoying. So I thought to myself, if I had and some of the students here had motorbikes and scooters, and I thought, well, if I had a motorbike, I could just zip down there and zip back again. Great. So I took motorbike lessons, I passed my test, and then I bought a motorbike. And I can still remember it costing me, I think it was £1,400 at the time. Brand new Yamaha, what was it? Yamaha 100XS or XS100, something like that. A blue one. It was a great machine. 100cc 2-stroke. Absolutely great. And it got me through university. So I did the motorbike thing first, and then I got the car later. Now, I'm always worried about recommending people getting motorbikes because, as you say, motorbikes are, in quotes, dangerous. They're dangerous for a couple of reasons. One, they can go pretty quick. And two, they're dangerous because, well, other road users just seem to have problems seeing them. I always drove with my lights on. I always drove with a high visibility jacket of sorts. So I always made myself as visible as I could. If a car looked at me, they would see a light coming at them. They would hopefully see a visibility jacket. They would have every opportunity to see me. But people still pulled out on me. Your only defense on a motorbike is your own alertness. If you've got poor alertness, don't even think about getting on a bike. If you've got good alertness and you think you can build up your kind of driver sense and driver awareness levels, then think about a motorbike. But it's not for everybody. You really have to be a very alert rider to drive a motorbike safely. Oh boy, I didn't think I was going to stop on time then. Oh, it's a traffic light, okay. Fine. So, I don't know whether to recommend a bike to you or not, because at the end of the day, I don't know how alert you are or how good a driver you might be. I think possibly think about taking some motorbike lessons to see if you like it, and perhaps ask your instructor for a very real assessment of your driving capabilities and alertness capabilities and take it from there. You can still get a license and then not get the motorbike, you know what I mean? You could still do it that way and not commit. Because whilst you're driving around with the instructor, you're still relatively safe, because they're on the comms to you, and they always sit back and try to protect you a little bit. They tend to drive in the middle of the road so cars can't overtake you guys. That's what they tend to do. Come on, coach. But yeah, it's hard to recommend, to be honest, because it depends on the individual. Next question from Rubino118. What are your favourite movie and TV cars? Ooh, your favourite movie and TV cars. From TV, I would say one of my favourites, and this goes back to my childhood, would be Kit in Knight Rider. And yes, I know it had a little light that went backwards and forwards, and I know it had a voiceover. You know, I'm an adult now, I know all these things, but back as a kid, the idea of having a car you could talk to that had all these gadgets on it and could jump and boost, it was just genius. It was brilliant. So I still have an affection, a fond memory of that car, Kit, on TV. In the movies, I would go for one of two. Either the 68 Mustang GT from Bullitt, which is still one of the best car chases ever done on the movie, and that green Mustang, oh, so good. I'd either go for that, or I'd go for the Aston Martin DB5 in Goldfinger, because that, I mean, come on. When I first watched that movie, it had blades that came out the wheels, it had a bulletproof screen that came up from the back, it had an ejector seat built in, it could drop oil, and, you know, what the heck? I mean, a car like that? Oh, dude. Seriously, oh my god. Did that just happen? You know, I've said this on the stream, but you just witnessed it again. Look at that, 2% trailer damage now and 6% car damage. And none of it, 7% truck damage. I've said this before, but the AI has definitely got worse. It's got substantially worse. It does not, I mean, it gives way when you indicate, and when you don't indicate, it pulls in front of you. It's kind of weird. It's like the reverse of what it should be. But they're my favourite cars. Nathan Harris says, what is your most frustrating experience on a train? I've done a lot of journeys. I've done tens of thousands of miles on trains. By far, one of my most frustrating experiences is quite simply this. I was travelling home from London, from Oxford Circus in London, back to, I think it was either Harlow or Chelmsford, I can't remember. I remember going down to Oxford Circus station, and I went to put my, you know, it was quite busy. And there's a procession of people going through the turnstiles, and you have to put your ticket in the turnstile. The guy in front of me tried to put his ticket in the turnstile, and it rejected it, so he put it in again, and it rejected it. So he put it in again, and it rejected it. Then he stood there, looked around, went, what the heck's going on? Blah, 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 blah. I went through a different turnstile. That little delay, it was about 30 seconds, something like that. I then went down the escalators, got to the platform, and I missed my tube. I missed the tube train by... It was just pulling away, the doors closing as I got to the platform, and I missed it. Had I not got stuck behind this guy, I would have got on that tube. The next tube came along a few minutes later. I got on that tube. I then got to the train station, and I missed the train that I normally get. I missed it by just a minute or two. It left as I got onto the concourse. I then had to get the next train. The next train left 10 minutes later, so I got on the next train. The train left Liverpool Street Station, and it only got about half a mile to a mile outside of Liverpool Street Station, and we stopped. And to cut a long story short, we were then sat there for 2 hours. And the reason we sat there for 2 hours was because just about a mile ahead, a truck had hit a bridge. And it had cracked the bridge. And therefore no trains could pass underneath it now. They had to get structural engineers in to basically assess the problem. And I sat there for the 2 hours, pretty much thinking to myself about that guy back at the turnstile. Have you ever heard of the butterfly effect? The butterfly effect is like a thing where if a butterfly flaps its wings in Tokyo, it can create a storm in LA. It's this kind of like, one small effect can ripple. That's what seemed to have happened. This guy delayed me by 30 seconds, and a chain of events led me to then sit on a train for 2 hours. Because if I hadn't have got stuck behind him, I would have got my tube, which meant I would have got my train, and that train got past this problem, but the next train, the one I got, got stuck behind this problem. And that was horrible, because I was sat there for 2 hours just festering on this guy, just going, I hate you, I hate you, I hate you. So that was by far one of the worst experiences on a train. Not good. Right, where are we going here? How far have we got left? 58 kilometers. Right. Let's drop down a couple of gears. Next question. We need to speed up some questions now because I've got too many. Matt says, on your motorcycle tour around the UK, did you just drive to places or did you plan your trip? It was planned. It was all very much planned. And the reason it was planned was because, you know, we set off from Greenwich in London and we went clockwise around the coast of Britain and Scotland as well. And, well, Great Britain, I should say. And what happened was we already booked into hostels, £10 a night en route. And by far the best stop was Oban. Oban was great. It's on the west coast of Scotland. Wonderful sunset. You know, great place to just visit. But yeah, we pre-booked the whole thing. We had everything planned out. Every road planned out. Christomus says, do you think the trucker jobs will disappear in the near future with the automated vehicles, and how do you feel about upcoming automated trucks? I don't know if they'll disappear completely. I know Scania was working, or, you know, a couple of years ago when I went to Scania, I sat in a lecture room and they were saying that they were working on... oh, I'm just slowing down, you scumbag. They were working on automated driver technology. They were showing you it in action. And they were showing you, like 3-4 trucks following each other with a 1 meter gap. And only computers could do that safely. And the benefit is, they're more like a road train, like literally like a road train at that point, without a physical connection between them. But they benefit from each other's, like the front one is braking the air, and the subsequent ones are following in the wake. So they benefit from the reduced air resistance. So they're already doing it. But, you know, are you ever going to get a situation where a truck, an automated truck, could deliver into some of the places I've seen trucks deliver into in the middle of cities or you know, in Cornwall? Like, just some of them require people. So I don't know if they're ever going to completely replace, but they'll certainly be a factor in moving goods around. If they're more efficient, then they'll definitely be adopted, because at the end of the day, you know, a driver is 1/3 the cost of the transportation network according to Scania, and that's a significant sum. And if they take the driver out of the equation, well, that's a substantial saving. But I don't think they'll be able to take drivers out of all the routes. I just can't see that happening. Then again, you've got to look at things like Amazon drones. They're going to start to move goods around, so they're going to eat into the logistics market as well, aren't they? So, you know, it's like anything. You've got to pay attention and just adapt, because efficiency changes will always come through. Next question from Ken You Not says, do you think double-deckers are amazing in any sort of way compared to other transportation vehicles? I'm from Hong Kong and I think they're amazing. Can you not? I don't really think they're amazing. I think, you know, we've had them in Britain as long as I've been alive. Double-deckers are good at what they do. You know, they're very compact. They're not articulated, they're very compact. And, you know, even wasn't that long ago that we got bendy buses in London, and they got thrown out and replaced by double-deckers again. So maybe it's nostalgia, but maybe it's just the fact that they work pretty well. But I don't think they're, in quotes, great. You know, I just think they're functional and good at what they do. Reese Morgan says, hello Paul, hope you're well. What's the biggest vehicle that you've driven in real life? And if you could drive any vehicle, what would it be? Biggest vehicle I've driven in real life has to be the 60-ton Scania BDF that I drove at the Scania test factory. As for any vehicle, what would it be? I think I've already previously answered that. I'd like to fly 777, but I don't think it's going to happen. But yeah, there are many vehicles I'd like to have a go at, but I'm not going to get a chance to, I don't think. Unless I end up on one of those TV shows where the presenters get to do crazy stuff. That could be kind of fun. Neko of Death Raw says, what are the worst conditions you've ever had to drive in? Without doubt, coming back from London on my motorbike and it snowed. Without doubt, that was the worst. Like, I can deal with rain, fog, you know, all the weather conditions I've driven a motorbike in. And that's bearing in mind that weather conditions on a bike are a lot more acute than they are in a car, with your air conditioning and your windscreen wipers. On a bike, you have neither of these things. You feel the elements, and the elements are very much in your face. Whether it's hot or cold, you'll feel it. It was snowing. The snow sticks to your visor, and you don't have a windscreen wiper. Oh, just go already. Dude! This is frustrating. This is really frustrating. I don't know. I just don't get it. I don't get it at all. Something's broken in the AI. Yeah, it was snowing, and coming back from London up the M11, I had to keep wiping the snow. It was thick as well. I had to keep wiping the snow, and of course, not only is visibility a problem through your visor, but let's not forget traction. Like, you're on two wheels, and you're upright, and snow is pretty slippy. So every time you go around a bend, you're sort of teetering around the bend, thinking, is this thing just going to go from under me any minute? Not good. I was pretty glad to get home that day. Okay, we'll turn it right here somewhere. Let's see if we can take another question. Reese Morgan says, hope all is well. What's the... No, we've done that one. Sorry, Reese. Epicman808 says, if you could go on a road trip around the country, any country, what country would it be? Road trip around any country? Well, I'll probably just go for a big one then, if it was one country. Like, I'd like to go around Europe or something, but if it's one country, I'll probably just go for the States. United States, and just go around that. Because there's a lot to see. Big Ben the Bear, what would you do? What would you like to see? A highly detailed ship simulator, where you have to manually start the engine in the engine room, walk in the dock, push all the buttons on the bridge. I don't think we've ever had a particularly good ship simulator like that. Would it have market appeal? I don't know. Okay, so there's an invisible wall here. Apparently. I was like, did I just hit a vehicle and I didn't see it? And the answer is, no, I didn't. There is literally something here that I can't see. There's a map problem. We're getting it all today. Let's see if we can drive this way then, once these cars have moved. I don't know. Ships are not terribly exciting. That's the thing. They're pretty slow. Wow, what is going on? I can't actually move. Feels like the whole road is blocked. Let's try going this way. Yeah, there's basically an invisible block there. Does it extend all the way over here as well? No, it's just there. How bizarre. How very strange. I don't know if I would. Ships are very, very slow and cumbersome and not very exciting to drive. So whilst it would be great to have a detailed go at a ship, I don't, you know, given that it takes months to travel anywhere around the world, I don't know if there's going to be a market for it. So I kind of hesitate to say yes, I would. Oh man, I know this drop off. Stoica Stefan, let's see if we can get the last one in. Stoica Stefan, what do you think about drivers who are away from home for months, several months? They're away from their family. My dad is that type of driver, and sometimes it's hard without him. Well, he's basically effective like a tramper or a long distance guy, isn't he? It pays well. It's a life choice. Sometimes your parents have to do what they've got to do to pay the bills. I can understand how it's hard as a kid, not having your dad around, and you probably miss him. I remember when I was a kid, my friend's dad used to work on down on the oil rigs in Saudi Arabia, and he would be there for like 2 months at a time. So he'd be away for 2 months and then he'd come back for a few weeks. It was good money, which is obviously why he did it. But, you know, it doesn't make it easy on the family. At all. So I can sympathize with you. I really can. But equally, when you're older, you'll probably understand that you've got to pay the bills. You've got to do what you got to do to pay the bills. There we go. That's not exactly lined up, but it'll do. I think we're going to get some deductions here, unfortunately. Satisfactory, yeah, there's some deductions coming. 2.9%. Eek. Don't feel like any of that was really caused by my driving. It was a lot of AI shenanigans. 2,300 is lost. 71 XP lost. I've said this before. I don't agree with this at all. I can understand a penalty maybe for damages, but reducing XP doesn't make any sense to me. Like, I gained XP by any driving that I do in this game. Why would I lose XP? Like, even if I have an accident, I'm still going to gain some experience from that, aren't I? It feels like a weird penalty to me. But we got it there. We got it delivered. And that's what matters. That was a strange journey, wasn't it? We had derpy AI, an invisible wall. It was pretty far from straightforward, that journey. But I had fun. I answered a load of questions. I hope you enjoyed that episode, guys. Thank you very much for your submissions. Hope you enjoyed my weird and wonderful answers. If you want to submit a question for the next episode, don't forget it's in the video description. And if you got a theme suggestion, just put that on the end of your question. Next theme is life lessons stroke life advice. So get your questions in. Until the next time, take care. Happy trucking.